There is a language that only those who live with social anxiety can fully decipher. It's the language of subtle cues, of micro moments of terror, of the interpretations that happen in milliseconds and determine whether you will speak or stay silent, whether you will show up or disappear, whether you will be yourself or wear yet another mask. You know this language. You speak it fluently, even if you've never consciously realized it. It's the language of a heart that races when someone looks at you for more than 2 seconds. It's the language of a mind that translates a simple silence as total rejection. It's the language of a body that tenses up when you need to enter a room full of people. But here is what most people don't understand about social anxiety. It isn't just a set of random symptoms. It is an intelligent system, a psychological mechanism that was created to protect you, but now it traps you. Every subtle sign you experience is a message from the unconscious, a fragment of a deeper truth about how you relate to yourself. Carl Jung, the pioneer of depth psychology, revealed something revolutionary about human nature. He discovered that what we most reject in ourselves doesn't simply disappear. These rejected parts form what he called the shadow, and this shadow, when not consciously integrated, is projected onto the external world. In the case of social anxiety, you project onto others the critical judgment you carry within yourself. Think about it. How many times have you been absolutely certain that someone was judging you, only to discover later that the person hadn't even noticed you? How many times have you interpreted a neutral facial expression as disapproval? How many times have you canceled plans because the fear of others' judgment became unbearable? These are not flaws or weaknesses. They are signs of a psyche that is trying to show you something fundamental about your relationship with yourself. Social anxiety is, paradoxically, an invitation to awareness. It forces you to look inward, to question your interpretations, to confront the automatic patterns that govern your social life. Today, you will discover the 7 most subtle signs of social anxiety, those that only someone living this experience can truly understand. They are not the obvious ones, like sweating or trembling. They are the imperceptible ones, those that happen in the realm of micro-expressions, instant interpretations, and the behavioral adjustments you make without even realizing it. But before I reveal these signs, I need to warn you. Once you consciously recognize them, you will no longer be able to ignore them. You will become the observer of your own internal dynamics. And that, as uncomfortable as it may initially seem, is the first step toward freedom. Because Carl Jung discovered something extraordinary about the social shadow. He realized that when we stop running from the parts of ourselves we most reject, when we consciously integrate these shadow aspects, something magical happens. The fear of others' judgment dissolves naturally, because there is no longer anything internal to be projected externally. Are you ready to recognize these signs? Are you ready to become aware of the unconscious patterns that govern your social life? Because what you are about to discover in the next few minutes could completely change your relationship with anxiety and with your own authenticity. Look at me now. Stop running away. I'm going to speak directly to you, the one who knows exactly what I'm talking about when I mention the feeling of being watched, even when no one is looking. You, who know the art of calculating escape routes in social settings. You, who have rehearsed simple conversations dozens of times in your head before having them. How many times have you arrived at a social event and immediately started mapping out where the exits are? How many times have you strategically positioned yourself near a wall so you don't feel exposed? How many times have you checked your phone pretending to be busy to avoid eye contact with strangers? This isn't paranoia. This is social anxiety in action, a sophisticated protection system that your psyche has developed. But here's what you need to understand. Each of these strategies, as effective as it may seem in the moment, is actually feeding the monster you're trying to avoid. Remember the last time you canceled plans at the last minute? You probably came up with a convincing excuse. something about not feeling well or something urgent coming up. But the truth is, the fear was stronger than the desire to connect. The shadow won again. And what about those conversations you've had with yourself in the mirror? Those moments when you practiced facial expressions, trying to find the right angle, the smile that didn't look too forced or too relaxed? You know exactly what I'm talking about. It's the desperate attempt to build a perfect persona, a social mask, to protect you from judgment. But notice what's happening here. Every time you hide behind a mask, you're sending a message to your unconscious. I am not enough as I am. Every time you avoid direct eye contact, you're confirming to yourself, there is something wrong with me that cannot be seen. And so the cycle perpetuates itself. The more you feed the belief that you need to hide, the more reasons your mind finds to validate that belief. It's a perfect feedback loop that keeps you imprisoned in your own creation. Jung would call this identification with the shadow. You've become so fused with the part of you that feels inadequate that you've forgotten there is an authentic self waiting to be expressed. Social anxiety is not who you are. It's a defense you have developed. As long as you keep running from the discomfort, it will grow. As long as you keep avoiding gazes, they will seem more threatening. As long as you keep feeding the shadow of internal judgment, it will project itself more forcefully onto the external world. But recognizing these patterns, seeing them with clarity, is the first step to breaking free from them. Because when you can observe your defense mechanisms in action, you become bigger than them. You become the conscious observer, no longer the unconscious victim. Can you feel that? That feeling of being seen not by others, but by yourself? It's uncomfortable, I know, but it's also the beginning of your liberation. Because today, you will learn to recognize the most subtle signs that only someone with social anxiety truly understands. And by recognizing them, you begin to dismantle the very prison you created. To understand the subtle signs of social anxiety, you first need to understand what is really happening in your psyche when it manifests. It's not just nervousness or shyness. It's a complex alarm system that was programmed to detect social threats, but has become hypersensitive, triggering alerts, even when there is no real danger. Jung discovered that the human psyche operates through complexes, groups of ideas, emotions, and memories that are organized around a central theme. In the case of social anxiety, there is a judgment complex that functions like an internal radar, constantly scanning the environment for signs of rejection or criticism. Imagine your mind as an ultra-sensitive security system. Every micro-expression you encounter is instantly analyzed. Every pause in a conversation is interpreted as potential rejection. Every glance is deciphered as approval or disapproval. This system is always active, always alert, always ready to protect you from a social threat that may not even exist. But here's the paradox. This very system that was created to protect you is actually creating the suffering you're trying to protect yourself from. It's like having a paranoid bodyguard who sees enemies everywhere and in trying to defend you ends up isolating you from all genuine human connections. What makes this even more complex is that this system doesn't just operate on a conscious level. It works behind the scenes of your experience, influencing your perceptions, your interpretations, and your reactions before you even have time to process them rationally. That's why you can logically know there's no reason to worry about what others think, but still feel your heart race when you have to speak in public. Jung would call this possession by the complex. You are no longer in control. The judgment complex is. It hijacks your perception, filters your reality, and determines your reactions. It's as if an unconscious part of you has taken command of the ship of your consciousness. And this is where true understanding begins. These subtle signs you are about to recognize are not symptoms of a disease that needs to be cured. They are messages from a part of your psyche that is trying to protect you but has learned inadequate strategies. They are invitations for a deeper conversation with this part of you that feels vulnerable and threatened. The social anxiety complex was formed for a reason. At some point in your life, probably in childhood or adolescence, you experienced shame, humiliation, or social rejection in a way that was registered as traumatic by your psyche. To prevent that from happening again, your unconscious developed this sophisticated alarm system. But now, this system has become a prison, and the subtle signs you are about to recognize are the bars of that prison. Each one represents a specific way this complex operates in your daily life, influencing your choices, limiting your possibilities, and keeping you small to feel safe. Recognizing these signs is like turning on a light in a dark room. You can finally see the architecture of your own anxiety. And when you can see something clearly, you can also begin to transform it. First sign: you become a micro-expression detective. In any social interaction, you are unconsciously analyzing every facial movement of the other person, looking for microscopic signs of disapproval. A nearly imperceptible frown becomes evidence that you said something wrong. A gaze that shifts away for a split second is interpreted as boredom or rejection. You've become an expert in reading body language, but only the language that confirms your fears. This is not a superpower. It's a symptom of a hypervigilant psychological system that has turned every social encounter into a criminal investigation where you are simultaneously the detective and the suspect. You are constantly gathering evidence against yourself. Second sign: you have mental postmortems after every social interaction. As soon as the conversation ends, your mind immediately starts replaying it, analyzing every word you said, every pause you took, every response you gave. Why did I say that? Did they notice I was nervous? I should have answered differently when they asked about my job. These post-conversation analysis sessions can last for hours or even days. It's as if your mind has an internal court that never stops judging your social performance, and the verdict is almost always guilty. Guilty of not being interesting enough, charismatic enough, natural enough. Third sign: you adapt your personality like an emotional chameleon. Depending on who you're interacting with, you unconsciously change your way of speaking, your humor, even your interests. With people you perceive as more intellectual, you emphasize your cerebral side. With more laid-back groups, you force a sense of humor that may not be naturally yours. It's not that you're fake. It's that you've lost touch with who you really are underneath all these adaptations. Each social environment demands a different version of you, and you've become so skilled at these transformations that you've forgotten your natural form. Fourth sign: you have extremely detailed preparation rituals before social events. I'm not just talking about choosing clothes. I'm talking about rehearsing entire conversations in the mirror, practicing facial expressions, mentally preparing answers to questions that might not even be asked. You create social scripts as if every interaction were a theatrical performance. These rituals provide an illusion of control, but they actually reveal how unprepared you feel to simply be yourself. It's as if you need to disguise yourself as a socially competent person to survive an encounter with other human beings. What all these signs have in common is that they reveal a psyche that is in constant social survival mode. You are not truly present in your interactions. You are monitoring, analyzing, adapting, performing. It's exhausting because you are doing the work of being social while simultaneously trying to protect yourself from being socially wounded. Jung would say that you are living in the persona, the social mask, and have lost contact with the authentic self. Each of these signs is evidence that you are more concerned with avoiding rejection than with creating genuine connection. And this constant concern is creating the very distance you fear. Recognizing these patterns isn't about judging yourself. It's about becoming aware of the automatic mechanisms that govern your social life. Because only when you can see clearly how it operates can you begin to choose something different. Fifth sign: You interpret neutrality as negativity. When someone has a neutral expression or responds with a simple, okay, your mind immediately translates it as coldness, disinterest, or irritation. You can't accept that people might just be present without a specific emotional reaction to you. The absence of obvious approval becomes evidence of disapproval. This sign reveals something profound about how you relate to external validation. You've become so dependent on explicit positive signals that anything less than enthusiasm is interpreted as rejection. It's as if you need constant confirmation that you are welcome, accepted, and valued. Sixth sign. You have a mental library of embarrassing social moments. Your mind stores with surgical precision every situation where you felt exposed, rejected, or humiliated. These moments may have happened years ago, but you relive them with the same emotional intensity as if they were happening now. And worse, you use these memories as evidence for why you must continue to protect yourself. This mental library becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more you relive these painful experiences, the more you convince yourself that social situations are inherently dangerous. Your mind is literally training you to fear the future based on wounds from the past. Seventh sign, and perhaps the most revealing of all. You feel relief when social events are cancelled. There is a part of you that feels genuinely relieved when plans fall through, when you don't have to attend a meeting, when a party is postponed. It's a mixed feeling of liberation and guilt, because you know you should want to be with people, but you secretly prefer the safety of isolation. This last sign exposes the most painful truth of social anxiety. You have developed an ambivalent relationship with human connection itself. You deeply desire to belong and connect, but you also deeply fear being seen and potentially rejected. So you find yourself constantly torn between the desire to show up and the impulse to disappear. These 7 signs are not coincidences or personality quirks. They form a coherent system, an unconscious strategy your psyche has developed to navigate what it perceives as a threatening social world. Each sign is a piece of a larger puzzle that, when seen in its entirety, reveals the complete architecture of your social anxiety. Jung would say that these signs are manifestations of an autonomous complex that has taken partial control of your consciousness. It's as if a part of you is constantly on high alert, interpreting every social situation through the lens of potential danger. But here is what's extraordinary. The fact that you can recognize these signs means there is already an observer within you that is beyond them. There is a part of your consciousness that can see these patterns in operation, and that part is where your capacity for transformation resides. You are not your social anxiety. You are not these automatic patterns. You are the consciousness that can observe them, understand them, and eventually integrate them in a healthier way. Recognizing these signs is the first step to freeing yourself from the prison you built yourself. Now that you've recognized these 7 signs, the time has come to transform this knowledge into freedom. It's not enough to just identify the patterns. You need to learn to consciously integrate the parts of your psyche that created these protective mechanisms. This is the work Jung called shadow integration, adapted specifically for your social reality. The first step is to develop what I call compassionate observation. Every time you notice one of these signs in action, instead of judging yourself or trying to suppress it immediately, stop and observe with curiosity. Ask yourself, what part of me is feeling threatened right now? What is this anxiety trying to protect me from? When you catch yourself obsessively analyzing micro-expressions, breathe and acknowledge, my protection system is active. It's trying to keep me safe, but I can choose to focus on connection instead of threat detection. This isn't about denying the fear, it's about not fully identifying with it. Practice what I call radical, authentic presence. In your next social interactions, try small moments of genuine honesty. If you feel nervous, instead of trying to hide it, allow yourself to be imperfect. Say something like, "I'm a little nervous today," or "I need a moment to gather my thoughts." Conscious vulnerability is the antidote to the artificial persona. When you stop trying to be perfect and allow yourself to be human, something magical happens. People connect with your humanity, not your performance. Develop a post-interaction self-compassion ritual. Instead of subjecting yourself to the internal court that analyzes every word you said, create a new habit. After each social encounter, ask yourself, what did I learn about myself today? How can I honor the courage I showed by showing up? Replace self-criticism with self-curiosity. Also, practice what Jung would call a dialogue with the social shadow. Identify the part of you that fears judgment and talk to it as you would a scared child. I understand you're trying to protect me. Thank you for caring about me. But now, we can try something different. We can experiment with being seen and still loving ourselves. A powerful technique is the positive neutrality exercise. Every time you interpret a neutral expression as negative, pause and consciously consider alternative interpretations. Maybe that person is just thoughtful. Maybe they're processing what I said. Maybe they're dealing with something of their own that has nothing to do with me. Also, create an inventory of counter-evidence. For every embarrassing memory your mind likes to revisit, consciously collect a memory of when you were accepted, valued, or well-received socially. Balance the mental narrative your anxiety has created. Finally, practice tiny acts of social courage daily. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It could be as simple as holding eye contact for 1 second longer, making a genuine comment instead of staying silent, or expressing a real opinion instead of automatically agreeing. Remember, the journey of integration isn't about completely eliminating social anxiety. It's about developing a conscious relationship with it, where you are no longer controlled by your automatic mechanisms. You become the director of your social experience, no longer just an actor following unconscious scripts written by fear. Freedom lies in recognizing that you always had a choice, even when you didn't know it. You've made it this far. That means something. It means you've had the courage to look at the patterns most people prefer to keep unconscious. You've allowed yourself to recognize the 7 subtle signs that governed your social life, like an invisible operating system. And by recognizing them, you have changed. You can no longer go back. You can no longer live these patterns in a completely unconscious way. Once you've seen how the mechanism works, you've become responsible for it. This may seem scary, but it is actually the beginning of your freedom. You are now the observer of your own social shadow. When it appears, you will recognize it. When the old patterns try to take control, you will notice. You are no longer the unconscious victim of your own protection mechanisms. You are the conscious integrator of your psychological wholeness. Understand this. Every time you choose authenticity over performance, you are healing not only yourself, but contributing to the collective healing of social anxiety. Every moment of genuine vulnerability you offer the world is permission for others to do the same. You now carry a sacred responsibility. The responsibility to no longer project onto others the judgment you carry within yourself. The responsibility to consciously integrate the rejected parts of your psyche so they stop sabotaging your social life. Every time you feel that alarm system go off, remember, you have a choice. You can follow the automatic script of fear, or you can breathe, observe, and choose a different response. You can feed the shadow, or you can integrate it. The journey you began today has no end. It is a continuous process of becoming more and more aware, more and more authentic, more and more free from the patterns that were once necessary for your survival, but now limit your capacity for genuine connection. Jung once said that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Every moment of social anxiety you face consciously, every choice for vulnerability you make, every time you allow yourself to be imperfect and human, you are fulfilling that privilege. You no longer need perfect social masks. You no longer need elaborate preparation rituals. You no longer need to interpret every neutral expression as rejection. You can simply show up as you are and trust that it is enough. The anxiety may still appear. It may still whisper its old stories of danger and inadequacy. But now you know you are not obligated to believe those stories. You can thank it for the protection it offers and choose courage anyway. Comment below which of the 7 signs resonated with you the most. Your honesty might be exactly what someone else needs to feel less alone on this journey. Like this content if you felt the courage to look at your own social shadow. And subscribe to continue this journey of integration and authenticity, because the truth is this: you did not come into this world to hide. You came to shine with your own unique and authentic light. And when you stop running from who you are, the whole world benefits from your genuine presence. The journey of integration is just beginning. Allow yourself to be exactly who you are.